Good afternoon, and welcome to CNU Talks, live at lunch. I'm Baxter Vendrick, and your moderator for today. This monthly series is brought to you by your Christopher Newport Alumni Society and the Office of Alumni Relations. And we are so thankful for the great interest and engagement from our Captains for Life through this series. Our previous episodes this year have included President Kelly, Brandon Jones, Vanessa Buellman, and last month, our Director of Athletics, Kyle McMullen. All of these episodes are available on our YouTube channel, so if you've missed any of them, please check them out there. We have a special treat today, just like what this incredible colleague leads here on campus. Holly Koons is the founding director of the Mary M. Torggler Fine Arts Center here at Christopher Newport University. In addition to offering strategic oversight of programming and operations, Holly is actively engaged in curating many of the exhibitions on view at the Torggler. She ensures that the Torggler supports the core mission of the university while serving the public through exceptional exhibitions and educational programming. Holly is the former executive director of the Arlington, Virginia Arts Center, now the Museum of Contemporary Art Arlington, where over a 4-year span, she directed the organization's administration, development, and creative strategy. Previously, she amassed 20 years of experience in nonprofit visual arts curation and management, serving as the executive director and curator for the Greater Reston, Virginia Arts Center, now the Tefra Institute of Contemporary Art, and as the Director of Collections and Exhibitions at the Telfair Museums in Savannah, Georgia. During her 15 years at the Telfair, she was responsible for the care, display, and interpretation of the museum's permanent collection, as well as an ambitious schedule of 12 to 16 changing exhibitions annually. Holly participated in planning the Telfair's new contemporary building and developed and presented dozens of exhibitions there. She holds a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Georgia in English and in art history, and a Master's in art history from the University of Notre Dame. She will begin today with sharing some thoughts, and when you have questions, just please type them into the Q&A area. And once Holly is ready for questions, I will read some of those asked as long as time allows. This session will be recorded and shared to our entire community to view at another time. And with that, I turn it over to my incredible colleague, Holly Koons.
Hi, Baxter. Thanks for the nice introduction. I appreciate that. If you all will bear with me one moment, I am going to share my presentation. All right, let me get this in the right mode here. Okay, hoping you all can see this. Baxter, can you confirm?
I can confirm it looks fantastic, Holly.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome virtually to the Mary M. Torggler Fine Arts Center. Perhaps some of you have had the opportunity to visit us at the Torggler, and for others, maybe you have not. So I am grateful for both groups. Those of you who haven't come in yet are just friends that we are waiting to make. And I'm going to give you a little overview of what the Torggler is and what we do before I launch into telling you about the very special exhibition that we have up currently. So our mission is to serve the campus community and the general public through exceptional visual arts exhibitions and programs that promote creative expression, critical thinking, and cultural dialogue. And it's important to note that we are both a campus-facing organization and a public organization. So we're a key fulcrum here between the university and the public. We have an absolutely beautiful facility. If you have not had the opportunity to visit us, we're an 83,000 square foot building with 3 floors. We have a massive main gallery for changing exhibitions and also a couple of smaller galleries, including a community gallery, a micro gallery, which is the tiny space that it sounds like, and an academic gallery, and we make good use of all of them. We also have 5 studio classrooms for community use. So what you're looking at here in the picture is our clay studio, one of our 5 studios that are devoted for public use, and we offer year-round classes in order to get the community in to use those spaces. We also will have, this is under development, but we will have an Art Explorers interactive gallery for children that will really engage younger children and families here. And we have a 150-seat lecture hall. And the rest of the building actually houses the university's Department of Fine Art and Art History, with whom we regularly collaborate. So we have lots of programs that we run here, but if I were sort of to distill what we do, it falls into 3 categories. We do public exhibitions, which are free, always free to the public. We do year-round educational programs, which can include studio programs, as you see in the photograph, but also lectures, talks, anything related to exploring the exhibitions on view. And then we do a host of special events. So Family Fun Days are one of those. We do those quarterly. For those of you out there with children, this is a great time to visit a free program, in which we have lots of activities for children related to our exhibitions. And Torggler with a Twist, which I'm going to give an additional little plug to. I think it's in this next slide. Give me a moment. There. Went too fast. There we go. So Torggler with a Twist is an after-hours program for adults in which we invite you in. There's a cash bar, and we have some crafty activities that are fun for adults. It's also just a great social time to come in and explore the exhibition after work. And the next one is actually coming up next week, Thursday, June 6th. So we invite you to join us if you are local, and to bring your friends, please. It starts at 5 p.m. The Family Fun Day flyer, we actually just completed our Family Fun Day and welcomed about 400 people in, even though it was persistently raining that day. So we were delighted with that attendance. And we have lots of programs coming up that are related to our current exhibition, A Grand Menagerie, the sculpture of Anna Hyatt Huntington. So I'm just showing you a couple on this slide, but one of them is kind of a unique, special thing we're doing. Anna, a theatrical monologue, is a play, essentially, a one-woman play performed by Cora Barr, who is a theater student here at CNU. And this was a collaboration with our theater department. And Cora becomes Anna. She channels Anna, and she walks through the exhibition from the perspective of sort of Anna's life and history, and engages herself with the work and also the visitors along with her. And so you're seeing those dates when this performance will occur throughout the summer. We have so many other programs coming up related to the exhibition, and most of them, like the theatrical monologue, are free. So I invite you to check out thetorggler.org. You have to put the in front of it, and you will find our website has all of these programs listed, and I hope you will check it out. And I should also add that the website has a place for you to sign up for emails if you are local, or even if you're not local and you're coming to town periodically, to come home, as Baxter would say. I invite you to sign up for our emails so that you can find out what's going on, and you can do that also on our website. And we also have a really fun project that I'm going to take this opportunity to shamelessly promote here. In conjunction with the Grand Menagerie, we are going to do a community slideshow. We're going to take images of people engaging with the lions at the Lions Bridge, which, as we'll talk about in a moment, are Anna Hyatt Huntington works, and ask for community members to submit digital images. So we need scanned, not original images, of themselves or family members or visitors at the Lions Bridge, which has just been, a great iconic landmark within this community. And then we're going to show a rolling series of these in our micro gallery. So if you have images, or people who would like to submit, The email address is there, thetorggler@cnu.edu, and we would love to have you and your family members included as part of this exhibition. Now, on to the main event here, which is a Grand Menagerie, the sculpture of Anna Hyatt Huntington. This is a show that has been years in development, approximately 3, almost since the time that we opened the Torggler. And just as a little personal background, the way that this came about for me is I was very new to the area. I'm not from this region. And I was wandering down in Mariners Park and came across the Lions Bridge and realized that those lions were by Anna Hyatt Huntington. She was an artist that I was familiar with actually through my years at the Telfair, which had a nice example of her work. And I decided that, there wasn't a lot out there on Anna Hyatt Huntington, even though at one time she was truly internationally famous. And so it seemed like a great opportunity and a very locally relevant thing to do to pull together an exhibition of her work to give all of us a sort of broader sense of who this woman was who created this iconic landmark. And so the show opened on April 20th. There are 32 museum lenders to this exhibition. For those of you who don't have a frame of reference on that, that's a lot of lenders to any exhibition. We did that partly to give you a sense of the fact that Anna's work is represented in so many institutions throughout this country. There's a reason for that, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But 32 of them were kind enough to lend, including institutions like the National Gallery of Art in Washington. So we have a great range, lenders from California to New England, to the Midwest, to the Deep South. Every region is represented. There are 89 works in bronze, aluminum, and plaster that range from teeny tiny 4-inch piece to a 99-inch high piece. And Anna Hyatt Huntington was best known for her work portraying animals. Both domestic and wild animals interested her. Animals of any kind interested her. But she also did works that were based on mythological and historical subjects, as we'll see. She's less well known for them, but she was equally adept at creating them. We did produce a catalog. If you all are interested, you can contact me and I will make sure that you can be connected with our wonderful catalog of the exhibition. And this was the first major retrospective of Anna Hyatt Huntington's work in decades, as far as I can tell, since the 1930s. So we're very proud of this effort. My computer is very slow moving to the next slide. I apologize. Hopefully I'm not going to, get stuck there. So let's start with the local landmarks. Probably most of you who attended school here are familiar with the Lions Bridge. You see that one of the lions there in the center. Our lions here in Newport News were placed in the early 1930s, and they were created after a pair of lions that were originally made for the Hispanic Society in New York City, which was founded by Archer Huntington, who was Anna Hyatt Huntington's husband, as we'll discuss in a moment. And her relationship with Archer Huntington is indeed what brought her to Newport News. So Archer Huntington also founded the Mariners Museum here in Newport News. And as part of that project, he asked his wife to help him develop a decorative scheme for the grounds. And so she contributed 4 marvelous lions, which sit on the parapets of the dam that was created to create Mariners Lake. And then you're also looking at on either side of that lion, 2 jaguars. Reaching Jaguar and Jaguar are the formal titles. These are life-size jaguars that are placed atop these sort of rough-hewn rocks to resemble a jaguar leaping down from a height. And these were originally placed outdoors on the Mariners grounds, as you could see here in these photographs, but were moved in, I believe, in the 1990s into the Mariners Museum itself. These are represented only by photographs in the exhibition because these works were too fragile to travel. And then there's another piece that directly relates to local landmarks. On the left here, at least my left, I think it's yours too, is Youth Taming the Wild, a sculpture from 1930, which belongs to the Ackland Museum at University of North Carolina. And then on the right is Conquering the Wild. You're seeing the top of this very large monument that is also placed in Mariners Park. In fact, you could see Conquering the Wild from the Lions Bridge. So it was part of this overall decorative scheme that Anna Hyatt Huntington engaged with. And it basically takes this earlier composition, Youth Taming the Wild, and adapts it in a larger monumental format, A, in limestone, but B, it becomes a personal tribute to Collis Potter Huntington, who you all may know was the founder of the shipyard here and was the father of Archer Huntington, Anna's husband, and also then obviously her father-in-law. More on him coming up. We'll return to that in just a minute. Now, Anna Hyatt Huntington, as I said, was someone who in her lifetime had actually achieved international fame and success, even though her name has largely been sort of lost to the general public today. She was extremely well known in her time. So on the left, you're looking at an image of Anna Hyatt from around 1912 with a horse, one of her horse sculptures in the background. She was extremely well known, particularly for portraying horses, which were one of her very favorite subjects. Anna grew up in the Boston area. She was born in Cambridge. Her father was a zoologist and a paleontologist. He worked at MIT, amongst other institutions. And early on, he inspired her love of animals and of nature. And he really taught her to work from life and to work from direct observation. And that is what she did. She had very little formal art training, a minimal amount sort of by way of her sister. Her older sister, Harriet, was a sculptor. And in her younger years, Anna thought she was going to be a concert violinist, but her sister engaged her in helping create some work. And realized that she was actually quite talented at sculpting animal figures. And so from there, she launched her early career. You're looking at the right at Winter Noon, which was one of her very early sculptures. You can see there are two workhorses here, and they're sort of nuzzling each other on this very cold day under a kind of billowing blanket. So her skill in rendering the anatomy of these animals, as well as the connotation of their emotional relationship and connection to each other, are two things that Anna Hyatt Huntington would become very well known for. Returning a bit to her biography, you're looking at a bust of Collis P. Huntington on the left and one of Archer Huntington on the right, both created by Anna Hyatt Huntington around 1927. Anna Hyatt Huntington did not love creating human figures. She was perfectly capable of doing it, but she found humans, and this is her own words, she found humans boring to portray. She much preferred animals. But when she did portray them, it was because she was creating a monument to a historic figure, or in some cases, a mythological figure, or she was memorializing family members, as you see in the case of these busts. So on the left, Collis. The interesting part about this was made around 1927, but Anna never met Collis P. Huntington. He died in 1900. Anna married Archer Huntington in 1923. Nevertheless, Anna made at least 3 monuments that were dedicated to Collis P. Huntington, and she obviously very much admired his legacy. Some of you may know that he was a railroad magnate. He extended the railroad from Richmond down to Newport News and then created the port to ship coal out from there and created the shipyard for that purpose. And so essentially he's credited as being the founder of Newport News itself. And it was his founding of the shipyard that led his son in 1927 to inherit the shipyard. So many years later, Archer gets involved with the shipyard business, and he maintains that involvement until 1940 when he sells the shipyard. But during that period of 1927 to 1940, Archer and Anna are very much engaged in Newport News, not only the shipyard, but in founding the Mariners Museum and in creating sculpture for the area. I want to point out, because I think it's really important to say this, Archer Huntington was one of the wealthiest people in America when Anna Hyatt Huntington married him in 1923. However, when she did that, she was 47 years old. She was already internationally known. She was in collections all over the world. She was completely financially independent. So this was a marriage of equals. She did not rise in status because of her marriage. But what did help her is that she was no longer dependent on selling works after she married Archer Huntington. So she was able to now create work and donate these works to institutions all over the country, which is part of the reason that there are so many institutions that hold works by Anna Hyatt Huntington. So early on in her career, she becomes known for her ability to portray animals very accurately, portray this anatomy. For instance, looking at the elephant running on the left that you see there, you can see that sort of the skeletal structure of the elephant, and then the skin, the way the skin sort of sags on its body. And the fact that she shows this elephant in motion, she became known for images of animals in action. And then on the right, a very important early work. This is one of the tiny ones in the exhibition, but this is an image of a Paraguayan jaguar that she met at the Bronx Zoo. So she moved to New York in 1902, and she spent a lot of time at the Bronx Zoo modeling animals from life. So she would literally show up with a ball of clay and start modeling what she saw. And Senor Lopez became her favorite model. And this little sketch, if you will, of this jaguar, she returns to this again and again later in her career. And this is also the basis of those large jaguars that I showed you in photos earlier in the presentation. And then in 1915, there's a real turning point in her career in which she's commissioned to create a large scale monument of Joan of Arc. This is a subject that she had tackled earlier around 1907, 1908. She spent some time in France. She was not an artist who spent a lot of time abroad. She actually really perceived herself to be an American artist and didn't want to be corrupted, if you will, by the massive sort of cultural history and weight of European art. However, when she was in France, she became interested in Joan as a female heroine. And also, modeling a subject like Joan of Arc allowed her to also create a horse. And horses were really her primary interest. And with Joan, she could do both. And so she created this wonderful sculpture that was shown in the Paris Salon in 1910. It was seen there by a New Yorker who was on a committee to create a Joan of Arc monument for New York City. She was then commissioned to create that monument. She revamped her earlier version of Joan and came up with the model that you see on the right-hand side in 1915. So we have in the exhibition actually two scale sizes of this monument, one that is a quarter size and one that is quite small, which is the one we're looking at here. That is the same size that you see her working on in this wonderful portrait on the left by Marion Boyd Allen. So this demonstrates her working procedures. She would start with clay. She always modeled in clay. And then she would create a plaster version, and the plaster version would be sent to a foundry where they would produce a bronze version. And then that could be scaled in different sizes. The actual monument, as it was placed in New York City, is still there today. It's on Riverside Drive and I think 93rd Street. And it was a huge deal in 1915. Thousands turned out for its unveiling. And it is the first monument by a female artist of a female historical figure in New York City. You can still visit it today. All right. So Anna developed a reputation from that point on for her ability to create large scale work. And she got more commissions in that vein. But she also still really loved to do what she was good at and what was closest to her heart, which was images of animals. And so you're looking at the left, on the left, at fawns playing, and on the right at greyhounds playing. These were two compositions created during the 1930s. This was a time when Anna actually had struggled for 10 years with tuberculosis, but continued to create sculpture, and her sculpture was getting larger and larger by degrees. So the greyhounds are basically life size. And she was also interested in creating these pretty complicated compositions where you have one or more animal figures engaging with one another very actively, often fighting or playing, as in these images. And she was also interested in the sort of negative space between those figures and how it activated the whole composition. You also see that in the 1930s, she starts sculpting with an unusual material, which is aluminum. She was one of the first fine artists to have an interest in casting fine work in aluminum, which had otherwise been a sort of utilitarian medium. And so you see that on the fawns playing on the left. She actually thought aluminum, the silvery sheen of it, was really quite appropriate for her work. And then, as I said, she began to receive more commissions for large scale sculptures. So these are two in the exhibition that, unusually for Anna, are focused on the human figure. On the left, her Diana of the Chase from 1922. The fact that she was interested in Diana amongst various mythological figures is no surprise, because Diana was the goddess of the hunt and of wild animals. So it allowed the artist to include a hunting dog leaping at at Diana's feet. But you also see this beautifully modeled serpentine, elegant composition that shows very well that Anna Hyatt Huntington was, quite capable of mastering human figures. Again, she simply was not that interested in doing so. Given a choice, she would rather portray an animal. But this composition, Diana of the Chase, became one of her most famous large scale monuments and was often placed in garden environments. And then on the right, the youthful Diana, you're actually looking at this figure in a what appears to be a garden setting. So spoiler alert, this is actually our gallery. We have a wonderful sort of garden room, which is meant to evoke Brook Green Gardens. So after founding the Mariners Museum, Archer and Anna bought property in the low country of South Carolina, where they founded Brook Green Gardens, which was meant to be a sculpture garden highlighting American figurative sculpture, including Anna's work. And so you see a piece here, the youthful Diana, that is actually also on display in Brook Green Gardens if you go visit. And you can also see, unusually, that the young Diana here is standing on top of some marine imagery. That's a shell held up by some intertwined fishes. And that is because she was a kind of garden statue that was meant to be placed oftentimes in a fountain or in a reflecting pool, as she exists in Brook Green Gardens itself. And again, back to animals, this is one of her most successful compositions that was produced at a number of scales and with a couple of different materials as well. Yawning Tiger from 1917. And to me, this portrays not only Anna's real mastery of animal anatomy, but her way of capturing animals in sometimes odd moments, doing things that you wouldn't necessarily think, to forever memorialize in bronze, such as this sort of awkward yawning tiger. Oops, you've seen that. Here we go. So the exhibition sort of moves also into Anna Hyatt Huntington's late career. which was considerable. She was absolutely amazing. She was 97 when she died. She was working until she was 96. And not only working, but working on large scale, massive monuments during her late period. So on the right, you're looking at Anna from 1956, visiting the Mariners Museum. She very much stayed in touch with the Mariners Museum that had been founded by her husband, and that obviously she was very engaged with creating Mariners Park. And then on the left, you're seeing Abraham Lincoln on the Prairie, which was a work created fairly late in her career. So Anna Hyatt Huntington maintained a few things throughout her career. One was her insistence on working figuratively. Even after abstract art became all the rage, she was a figurative sculptor, and she never wavered from that. The second was her interest in portraying animals. So all the way to the end of her career, she's portraying horses, she's portraying dogs, she's portraying large cats, and so forth. So those things were very consistent. But one thing that happened in her late career was she created a series of equestrian monuments of presidents. And so you see they're very unusual for equestrian monuments, which are normally sort of very heroic, in that they are much more introspective and naturalistic, if you will. So with the Abraham Lincoln, for instance, she portrays Lincoln reading on horseback, thinking of him as a young lawyer riding the circuit and catching up on his work as he's doing so, and so focused on his reading that he doesn't realize that his horse is actually grazing. And then finally, just some reasons that you should come and see this exhibition. The first is that it's really highly relevant to the cultural landscape of Newport News itself. The second is it is the most comprehensive exhibition of the artist's work mounted in decades. And the third is it is free. So if I didn't make this clear before, all of our exhibitions are free to the public, and many of our programs related to those exhibitions are also free. Now, with that, I am going to turn it back to you, Baxter, and I would love to take any questions.
Absolutely. Well, we've got several questions, but there's one in that is directly related to the exhibit, so I'm going to start with that.
All right.
Given that Anna Hyatt Huntington's relationship and unique connection to Newport News, is there any discussion regarding whether any of her works will be permitted to live within the Torggler permanently on display in her honor?
No, there is no such discussion. Listen, if somebody has an Anna Hyatt Huntington that they are dying to have at the Torggler, we can talk about that. The Torggler, I should clarify this. The Torggler is currently a non-collecting institution. And so what we do here are changing exhibitions. But I think down the line in time, it will make sense for the Torggler to start collecting. We may not be there yet. If there were an opportunity with Anna Hyatt Huntington, then perhaps that's a place to start. But at the moment, we don't collect and we don't own any of the works that are on view. We have just borrowed them from generous lenders. Excellent question.
All right, so we shift from the exhibit and move to some other questions. First is, what is the history behind the Torggler coming to campus?
That's also a great question, and I wasn't here for much of that history. So I joined CNU in 2020, and we opened the Torggler in 2021. I was here only a year before this building had to open fully programmed. So it's been a really exciting ride from the beginning. My understanding of the origins of this are it begins with Paul Tribble, that this was something that he felt that our campus should have. If you're familiar with other campuses in the region, and even nationally, it is not uncommon for universities to have museums on campus. And I think that President Tribble thought that we too, especially having the Ferguson next door, that it would make sense to have a fine arts, a visual arts center on the campus as well. So I think that this was was his dream and was the last building that was completed before he retired. And then also, some of you may be familiar with the fact that there was a Peninsula Fine Arts Center here, so a visual arts center that had been around for many, many years in the community and was much beloved. And in 2013, PFAC, as it was known, signed an MOU with CNU saying that when this new facility opened, that we would essentially absorb the legacy and the duties of PFAC. So the fact that PFAC was a community art center doing exhibitions, programs, family things, all of those are things that the Torggler does as well. So we sort of assumed that role in the community.
Fantastic. So Mary Torggler, the namesake, is she actively involved with things happening at the center?
She is, not in the sense of our programming. So, the programming that happens here in terms of what exhibitions we put on, things that we offer, that is left to me and my staff, that's the professional way to do that. But Mary is a wonderful friend and incredible supporter. So obviously, she and George continue to support the center financially, which is very important. But they're also very hands-on in terms of being visitors, friends, constant friends to us, in fact. So they come down for, all the big events. They were here for the opening of Hyatt Huntington. They also sit on our art foundation board. So, they're very, very keenly involved, and none of this would exist without them. So yes, they are engaged, not in the nature of programming, but in the fact that we are able to offer it and that the Torggler is here to begin with.
I concur with that, Holly. They are exceptional human beings for certain. Do you have any aspirational exhibit? Not that the one on display right now is not phenomenal, but do you have an aspirational exhibit that you want to bring to the Torggler at some point?
I have many things that I would like to do here at the Torggler, and I'm not going to jinx myself at the moment by throwing names out there that are not confirmed. But I will say that most of what we do here is living artists. We show mainly living artists in our exhibition, and that is because it's easier for an institution like the Torggler to work directly with artists on many levels. And so that is how we've started out. When you do a historical show like Hyatt Huntington and you're working with museum lenders, it's infinitely more complicated. We will continue to do that as we have the capacity to do it and as it makes sense for our community and our programming. But, I think you can expect that we'll do a preponderance of living artists. And I think that's actually really exciting when you come in, like getting to know. One of the things that we can do here is help you get to know artists who are still in the world with us, engaging. And very oftentimes you can meet them directly through our programming as well. And that's one of the great opportunities that we offer. How's that for an oblique answer to your question?
You were being honest, and nobody wants to jinx anything. So I'm here for that.
Thank you.
Not the jinxing part, but preventing. So this next person said that back in its first year of being open, she had heard of programming or camps for kids. Is that something that's still happening?
Yes. In fact, camp is starting in just a few weeks. So we have run a summer camp program here since before this building was open to the public. It was actually the first program that I launched. So we started in 2020. This will be our fourth year. We run 8 weeks of summer camp programming, and it's open to kids ages 5 to 14. And it's great. It's our most popular program if you take it by the numbers. And it's just I personally love when camp season begins, because to have all this life and youth around the building, learning about art, being creative, and also using our galleries. So most of our camp instructors will take the kids into the gallery space, which makes our summer art camp very different from a lot of sort of, other arts and crafts camps that you might find out there. The kids get to experience, original work along with the fun they're having in the studio classroom. So yes, 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 we do camps and we love doing them.
And I'll have to second that again because both my niece and nephew attended and had an absolute ball, and it's still on display in their house.
They are super cute, by the way.
Yes, indeed. I agree. So I know there are memberships. What are the benefits to being a member, and do I have to be local to be one?
No, you do not have to be local at all. So our membership program is called our Patron of the Arts program. And it is the way that we, just to put it simply, we cannot do what we do in our gallery spaces based on our state allotment. So when you support the Torggler as a patron, you are supporting the quality very directly of the exhibitions and programs that we offer. So you are supplementing our ability to do our job better and to provide better exhibitions and more ambitious work. And that's what you see happening with an effort like Hyatt Huntington, which would have been impossible otherwise. So the patrons program is also on our website if anyone wants to learn more about it. The benefits you get are if you sign a child up for camp or a grandchild up for camp, there's a 10% or more discount depending upon your level of patronage. Also, you get invited to our exhibition opening receptions, which are reserved for the most part for our patrons. It's like a preview of the exhibition. And that's just one of many kind of inside opportunities that you have when you're a patron. You also get first notice of our programs and anything that you have to register for, like camps. You get the opportunity to do that before the general public. So there are many benefits, but of course, to me, the one that steers to my heart is that you make it possible for us to do the work that we're doing and to do it for free, to offer our programs for free so that no one in this community cannot access us because they don't have money for admission.
That's beautiful.
I think so.
Absolutely. And I'm a patron as well. So of course I support it.
Thank you for your support, Baxter.
Yes. And I know about state allotments. So yes, become a member today. We almost sound like WHRO.
That's right.
So I have two more questions, and I'm going to save one of them in particular for last. Person said that the students of CNU obviously display at different times their own artwork in the Torggler. Can you talk about that? And are those pieces ever for sale?
Okay, sure. So first of all, in terms of sales, generally, the Torggler obviously is not a commercial gallery. And anything that is on view in our Anne Noland Edwards gallery, our main gallery, like the Anna Hyatt Huntington exhibition, none of that is for sale. But when you're talking about students' work that is in the academic gallery, and oftentimes work that we will show in the community gallery, that work can be for sale. And our rationale there is that it's great for young student artists and community artists to be able to sell their work. That's us supporting the local arts community. And so we will do that. We don't do it overtly. There's not going to be a price on the wall next to the piece, but we have price lists that are available at the desk. So education first, but yes, we will do sales secondarily. And student work is oftentimes mounted by the department. So that academic gallery that I mentioned is actually, for the most part, managed by the Department of Fine Art and Art History. So for instance, they just mounted the CNU senior thesis exhibition. So all the kids who are graduating with art degrees are part of this thesis show, which is actually really wonderful. And then we actually donate or designate the community gallery for that use as well, because we have so many kids and a lot of student artwork. But we also show, every year we do this exhibition called Prefaces, which spotlights local high school kids whose teachers submit selected work, and we're able to show kids from, all over the region that way. And that's a really important way of encouraging the arts and young artists in our community. And so, some of that student work, and prefaces, we don't sell anything because that involves public schools and kids who are not CNU students, so we stay out of that fray. But in any case, we love showing student work, and there's often in our hallways, if you're just wandering around, oftentimes the Department of Fine Art and Art History professors will put out work from projects that their students have completed, and we'll install these in our hallways, which have wonderful proper lighting in them. And it's a great way to just see what the students are up to and the really clever things they come up with. And it's also wonderful for those of us who work here in this building, because we're just constantly surrounded by changing artwork.
All right, last question, and I swear to God, I did not write this question, but it definitely brings everything together. What can Christopher Newport alumni do to best support the Torggler?
Well, first of all, come visit us. There is no better way of supporting the Torggler than to just come see us, be part of our programs. We do not exist in a vacuum here. So if we work really hard to put up an amazing exhibition and nobody comes, then it's been in vain, right? So just participating, just showing up means the world and makes this the, incredibly vital place that it is meant to be. We exist, our staff exists to facilitate direct interaction with artists and original works of art. So we need you to do that. And secondly, if you want to go further, consider becoming a patron and helping us to continue to do the ambitious work that we're doing now. What a great question.
Hence saving it for last. Holly, thank you so incredibly much for being a part of today's session. I think everybody watching and those who will watch the recorded version will realize that we truly have two incredible assets here. That's you and everything that you bring, your creativity, passion, and love. And of course, the Torggler Center that's really sort of expanding and making this region a better place. And of course, with you at the helm. So Holly, thank you so incredibly much.
Thank you, Baxter. It has been a pleasure. Thanks to all the alumni out there for your support, and to you personally as well. Ditto back to you for all the things that you do for alumni here.
You are a kind soul. Thank you. And as we conclude today, let me remind everybody that next month on June 26th, we will have our next Live at Lunch, and it will be a conversation with the Honorable Nate Fontaine, class of 2007, who is the president of the Alumni Society Board of Directors. Nate will provide some updates and some plans from your alumni board. Be on the lookout for an invite to that Zoom session. And again, thank you for joining us today, and we'll be seeing you soon. Take care.